welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Again, we're at the weekend and it's raining, so as luck would have it, we can't get a lot done today, but there's a few things I just want to explain to you whilst it's the weekend. But last night, yesterday afternoon, I did actually manage to get a bit of winter digging done, and that's basically when you just basically turn over the ground, good spade depth, and then obviously turn the ground, you know, completely upside down. So basically put the spade in, turn it over, and if you can do your plot at this time of year, it saves you a lot of work in the spring. Couple of advantages. The first one, it gets rid of the weeds, because basically you're burying the weeds, so that'll obviously kill them off in the winter. And then all the nutrients which have sort of gone down into the soil will then basically be at the top. And then next year, all you need to do basically is rotivate it, and you can put your crop straight in. So it does make it a lot easier in the spring to get it quickly dug over and get your plants in. So if you do get a chance, if it's not raining like it is here, now's the time to get out there. Now you've got all your crops out, and give the ground a good digging over, and that'll you know put you in a good position for next year. But anyway, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, the sweet potatoes. I think this plant's. I think it's going to grow much more now. So what I'm going to do is just quickly pull this out and see what we've got. I think there's only going to be one sweet potato in there, or possibly two. Yeah, there's just the one. So that's basically what we've got. I don't think there's any more. So one sort of quite wrapped up sweet potato that we've got in there. So not too bad. I've never grown sweet potatoes in the past, but as I say, that's come off one plant. I think I was a little bit late planting them, to be honest with you, which is possibly why they haven't grown particularly well. But I don't think we're going to get anything off there. Oh no, there's some little ones in there. But yeah, not a overly successful year for sweet potatoes. But as I say, it's my first time. That's actually gone a little bit rotten. But yeah, so I've basically got one reasonable sized sweet potato. Now what I will do is I'll grow them again next year. I'm going to try and start them off a little bit earlier next year. But yeah, that's what the sweet potatoes look like. Okay, so I'll do a few of the comments and questions that have come over in the last couple of weeks. First one comes from Tina, and she was talking about Buddliea plants, and she said she was admiring the yellow one that I've got in the garden. I actually bought that when I was about. I actually bought the original plant when I was about 9-10 years old, and it was planted in my parents' house. And this is probably about these plants that are in my garden, probably about 4th or 5th generation, because Buddliea plants last about. I'd say probably about 20-25 years, and they get a bit woody after a bit, so what you need to do is take cuttings and grow a new one, and then take the old one out after kind of 25 years. They get a bit kind of too woody sort of thing, and they don't grow quite as well. But taking Buddliea cuttings, I just wanted to quickly just sort of quickly explain. Obviously that's a branch off of Buddliea. I've just pulled a branch off. Now if you want to take cuttings off Buddleas, now's a reasonably good time to do it. They will take over the winter. You can do it in the spring as well, but what you want to do is the things with Buddleas is they form buds quite early on in the year. So either take cuttings now, or take them really early in the spring. As soon as they start to come out, take the cuttings out. But basically, what you need to do is so that's just a branch I've just taken off a Buddliea plant here. And what you need to do is strip off the majority of the leaves, because obviously there's no roots on it, so there's nothing to feed the leaves. Now this would be this would be an ideal cutting, because what you've got is you've got little side shoots. I don't know if you can see on the side there. There's actually little side shoots coming out. So what I would do is take off the big leaves, because obviously that's going to be draining all the sort of the nutrients out of the plant. So I'd probably take it down to probably about that much. So as you can see, I've just got those few leaves at the top now, and it will survive at that. And what you need to do is where the I don't know if you can see, but where the leaves were, you've got that joint there. With a nice sharp knife, cut off just below that joint. So if there's the joint there, look. So you just want to cut just behind that, with a nice sharp knife, straight the way through. Now, that bit of stalk there is quite woody. That's what you want. You want a nice woody bit. Obviously, the top bit there is quite sort of bendy and soft. That's okay for the top, but what you want is the woody, harder stuff at the bottom. That's the bit that you really need for the cutting. It's going to root there a lot better. Make sure you pull all of the bits of leaves off the bottom. Now what's going to happen is you're going to get roots forming at the bottom there, and here where the leaves were, and here. So what you want to do now is put that down the side of a pot. So if you've got and I always find a nice tall pot like that works quite well. So in there, compost with some, well, you can just do it with compost, but if you put a bit of sand in there, it does help, because what you want to do is you don't want the cutting to be sitting in water, but you want it to have some water. So I'll just put some compost in this tub now, just very quickly. And you want to fill the tub up almost to the top, like that. And then down the side, what you want to do is don't push the cutting in, because what you can do is damage that end bit. So what I would suggest you do is with a knife, same knife, or a stick, a piece of bamboo cane or something like that. What you could use is just a bit of bamboo cane like that. Stick that down the side of the pot like that, if you can see. Make a hole, and you want it down the side of the pot because the conditions there are better for cuttings than in the middle. If you get a pot like that and put 4 or 5 cuttings around the edge and put one in the middle, I can almost guarantee all the ones around the edge will root. The one in the middle may not root, and probably will rot off. So push it all the way down to the bottom, or as deep as the cutting is. So that's gone into the ground about that far, yeah. Which, ironically, is pretty much the same length as that. And then push that down inside the pot like that. So I'm not making the hole with the cutting, I'm making the hole with a bamboo cane and then putting that down in the hole. I've not put any hormone rooting powder on or anything like that, I don't need to do that. And then with your hand, push the ground down, because what you want to do is make sure that the ground's nice and firm and it's touching where the roots are going to come from on the plant. So I'm pushing as reasonably hard, so that ground's nice and firm now. Now I can put another 4 or 5 cuttings round in there, and that will root quite nicely. Now all I need to do is just give that a little bit of water, not much. I'd give that probably, I don't know, probably about, for a pot that size, this compost is reasonably dry. I'd probably put about half a pint of water on there, if that, and then leave it. Put it somewhere reasonably warm, outside of direct sunlight if you're doing it in the spring, and you'll find that they'll root quite nicely. Now all of those Buddlias that you saw down in the garden that I was cutting down the other day, all of those I've rooted from cuttings, and apart from the yellow one, that's the only one I bought. All of the others have come from cuttings that I've taken off either neighbours' plants, or where I work there's a couple of Buddliea plants. I've had a couple of cuttings off them. Likewise with the lavender plants and stuff like that. They're just taking cuttings off either plants that we've got at work, or in neighbours' gardens and that I've asked. Obviously, if you want to take a cutting, obviously always ask first. But cuttings are a free way of making plants for yourself, and it gives you a head start. And normally I find with cuttings the plant is always stronger. As I explained before in the past, that was a lavender plant from seed. It's taken 5 years to get to that. That's a lavender plant that I took from a cutting this year, and as you can see, it's actually bigger. It's a stronger plant. So cuttings will do two things for you. One, you'll get a true plant, so it'll be the same as the parent plant that you take it from. From a seed, it may not be like the parent plant. So if you take seeds off a plant, it's not necessarily going to be the same as that plant because you don't know what it pollinated with. If you take a cutting, it will be true to the parent plant. It'll always be the same. So cuttings are good for that reason as well, and also they don't cost you anything. Hormone rooting powder, really, in all honesty, I've taken thousands and thousands. I wouldn't like to hazard a guess how many, possibly millions. Of not quite that many of fuchsia cuttings. I don't use hormone rooting powder or anything like that. Some plants you do need to be fair, because you need the antifungal stuff in there to help, so you get a much better success rate. But things like fuchsias, any hardwood cuttings like lavender or that Buddliea that I've just done, you really don't need hormone rooting powder. Just stick them in a pot, round the edge, make sure the ground's nice and firm, moist but not wet, and then leave them in a frost-free environment if it's this time of year, and they will most certainly root. I put in, I think those Buddlieas, I put in about 10 cuttings, and I think 9 of them actually came. Exactly the same as the hydrangea plants. I put in, I think I put in 7 cuttings, 6 of the 7 came. And they came really well. I did lose a couple at the beginning of this year, if you remember, but that was because of some little insect that went on the side of it. But yeah, Buddliea cuttings, take them like that. They are fantastic plants. And Tina asked, when should I prune them? Should I prune them this year or whatever? Well, hydrangeas as well, but also Buddlieas. They always react well to being pruned. This is the right time of year to do it now. Now the plants are starting to die back, and dependent on the size, Tina, I don't know how big your Buddlieas are, but if they're more than sort of 3 foot high, what I would suggest you do is, particularly if you've just planted them as well, I would cut them back, because it's less stress on the roots as well. So if the plants are about 3 foot high, what I would tend to do is cut them down to about 1 foot now, which is what I did last year when you plant them. So plant them in the ground and then cut them down to about 1 foot, just above a leaf joint. So I can't show you on there now, but if you've got, imagine this is your Buddliea plant, cut them off about 1/2 inch or so above a leaf joint, and then next year that will all sprout out and make a much better bush for you. And you'll get a nice big rounded plant, as opposed to just like, it'll look quite spindly if you don't cut it back. So Buddlieas react really well to being pruned down. Leave about 3 or 4 leaf joints and then cut it off just above a leaf joint, and then you'll get a nice bushy plant next year, and you'll get obviously loads of flowers off it. So yes, prune them this year if they're kind of that big. If they're only small like that, what I would tend to do is just take the top out. Just take the top 1 or 2 inches out, and then they'll bush out again. But you want to encourage them to bush out, and so you get a nice bush rather than a spindly long with just 2 or 3 flowers on. So that's the best advice I can give you, Tina. Next comment is from Marina Wilson, and she was saying drying the beans, and she normally leaves hers till February. Yes, you can do that. That's no problem at all. There's a few people who want me to post them out to them, but what I would suggest with your bean seeds, as I've said before, as soon as they go like a brown colour, like that, what you're looking for is when you tap them, they should sound dry. Yeah. So if you tap on a piece of glass or something, they should sound like a tinny sort of tapping sound. If they're a bit, if it's a dull sound, they're still soft. We can actually feel. Don't squeeze them too hard because you don't want to crack them. But if you feel it, they shouldn't move at all. If you squeeze the bean, they shouldn't move. If they don't move, and they also start to go a little bit brown as well. I don't know if you can see that. They're dry enough then, and you can store them away in a paper bag or an envelope in your shed somewhere nice and dry, frost free if you can, and they'll overwinter there quite nicely. But yes, you can leave them dry until February if you wish. Nigel from over in Wolverhampton, Muddy Boots, he was saying he took a fruit tree out a couple of weeks ago, or a month or so ago, and he was saying that the tapping is, now he uses a mattock, which is basically like a pickaxe, which is flat, so it's got like a chisel on it rather than a so if the axe is like that, the chisel's sort of like that way, and that does get into the into the tapping root. What I have found, to be honest with you, Nigel, is what I tend to do is dig a hole down. I dig round the tree, and then I sort of get through all the side roots as best I can with the saw. And then for the tapping root, what I try to do is dig in, and then what I try to do is get under the tree with a saw and cut through it that way. I found that's a little bit easier. Use an old saw because you tend to blunten the saw if if it's a new one. But a nice small saw, which is with reasonable tooth size, and I wouldn't use a new one. Use an old one and get in there. But you are right. But with I find with the Matic it's a bit hit and miss if you can actually hit the tapping root because you can't see because it's under the tree. So what I tend to do is dig in a bit and then get a saw in there where you can actually see that you're actually cutting it. But yeah, good tip. That's a good way of doing it. And also you can use that as well to lever the tree up and break the taproot that way. If you're not sure what a tapping root is with a tree, if you imagine there's the stalk of the tree, there's a root that goes directly down which anchors the tree into the ground, and that goes directly down. That's the tapping root. And on a tree you'll get loads of roots going sideways, which are the roots that feed the tree with water and nutrients and stuff like that. And then the tapping root is the structural thing that keeps the tree upright. So these roots around the edge here are quite easily got at because you just dig down and cut them. The tapping root is the bit that holds the tree in the ground, so you need to cut through that to get the tree out if you're removing a tree. So that's basically what I mean by tapping root, if you're not sure what I was talking about. Next one comes from Simon Wood, and he was talking about doing the pumpkins, and he was saying what he's used in the past is a Dremel drill. You are right. My Dremel drill's not overly powerful. It's a little 12-volt thing that I've got. It's got a transformer on and stuff. And I thought that was not going to cut through particularly well. The one thing I've found about my pumpkins this year, and I don't know if anybody else has found this, but the ones you buy in a shop, the skins are reasonably soft. Mine are normally reasonably soft, to be honest with you. But this year, I don't know if it's because of the weather we've had, it's been quite hot and dry. The skins are really hard, and I found that the pumpkin that I carved for Halloween lasted for almost a week, where normally 2 or 3 days it's already started to droop and it's ready for the bin. But the skins on them this year were really hard, and when my daughter was carving her pumpkin, she really struggled to get through the skin to actually carve it. So I was quite happy that I'd done mine with the Dremel drill. Cause I think not the Dremel drill, the normal power drill, because we had a problem with knives, sort of carving into it. But I have found that the pumpkins are quite hard this year. The skin's almost like wood to get through, but they do last that much more longer. The pumpkin did last for a week or so before it started to collapse in on itself and it needed to go in the compost. But yes, Dremel drills, most certainly you got more control. Nigel did say, was it Nigel or somebody else? He was saying I didn't wear gloves for when I was using the drill. There's a good reason for that. Gloves are good to protect your hands, that's right, but I've always found with power drills I'm more likely to have an accident if I've got gloves on than not. So I typically don't wear gloves, but I have used an angle grinder once with gloves on. I always used to wear gloves, and the angle grinder almost slipped out of my hand at one point. And I find without gloves I can hold on to it more, and I'm more likely to, I'm less likely to have an accident without gloves, to be honest with you. And with gloves, the other thing that you need to be careful of with a drill is if the drill does catch the glove and the glove starts to wrap around in it can actually pull the drill or power tool, whatever, towards your hand, so you need to be careful that way as well. So yeah, I wasn't wearing gloves. I know health and safety first, all that business, but yes, I wasn't wearing gloves. Next one comes from Jan's Allotment Garden, and she was talking about Buddliea cuttings. So yes, like that. But yeah, all the best with your Buddliea cuttings, Jan. Next one comes from Richard Sibbonen, and he was talking about the wormery, and I have done a clip on the wormery, but Richard was talking about putting cardboard in there for the cellulose, and also putting some dog hair in there as well for the kiting. So there's a little clip of me now just updating what I've done on the wormeries this week. Okay, so a quick update on the wormeries. You can see the the stuff's all started to break down from last week, and as you can see, all of the baby worms have made their way back down, and they're merrily working through. Now, Richard Sydenham did put a comment on last week, and he is right. I haven't shown this before, apart from the fact when I first set it up, I showed you then. But basically, what you need to do is supply the worms with some cardboard for cellulose, and also if you can put some dog hair in there as well, that'll give them the chitin as well. So basically, all I'm going to do now is, now you can see it is a little bit damp still in there. So what I will do is I'll have another go at draining a bit more water off. As you can see here, I've got 2 full bottles there that I got off last week. So I will drain a bit more off this week. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put on a bit of dog hair. Now obviously this will, luckily my Border Collie is molting at the moment, so this has come straight out the vacuum cleaner, so it's a little bit dusty as well, but the worms won't mind that. So that's going to provide them with some chitin. So I'm just going to sort of put that around a little bit, and that'll all sort of, the worms will sort of get in there and sort of help themselves. I know it doesn't look brilliant, but what I've also done is I've not got any I'm not going to put some cardboard in. What I'm going to do is I've just shredded up a few old letters and a little magazine. You can see that one come from the IET, but I did read it off, I assure you. So I'm just going to put a bit of paper in there as well. And what this will do, 2 things, and obviously Richard did put this in his thing as well. This will actually help to absorb the water a little bit, but the worms will all work all that in. So obviously I put the vegetables in last year. Now what you need to do is sort of keep layering it, and you know, that's the way to do your wormery. But as I say, they'll sort of work their way through that now. So that's what I've done this week, and I'll show you what that looks like in an update in either next week or the week after. Okay, and the next comment comes from Teresa, and she was talking about coffee, if she's got any coffee left in the percolator. As I said in the coffee section, coffee is acidic. Most drinks are acidic, so if you pour that on the ground, you are going to be changing the pH of the soil. So I would recommend you put that on plants like roses and rhododendrons and stuff like that. That's the best place for that. But yes, putting coffee on the ground will change the pH if you're not careful. Coffee grounds are quite neutral. You know, they won't change, but the actual coffee that you make the drink, that has got you know, a low pH. The next comment comes from Brian Hubry. Very good comment, Brian. I like your thinking. And this comes from the back of Nigel from Muddy Boots said about garden tools and buying them and stuff like that. And Brian said one good bit of advice would be to go to a car boot sale and buy your tools. That's right. Yes. You know, you can pick them up for cheap, and obviously if you are if you aren't just starting off with your allotment, and you don't know if you're going to keep it on or whatever, then obviously you don't want to spend too much money. A car boot sale is one that you can you know, pick up tools quite easily. But what I would do is make sure that the tools are, you know, reasonable quality. What you do tend to find at car boot sales is people sort of empty out old sheds and stuff like that, and you may, you know, pick up a spade or something like that. And there's nothing worse than putting a spade in the ground and it breaking on you, because it can potentially be dangerous. So always make sure that it's in good sound condition when you buy it for the garbage sale. But yes, that's a really good cheap way of getting your tools. Next one comes from I think it's UK Toe Cutter. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but they're doing the Back to Eden method next year, and this is being done by quite a few people. I was watching a YouTube video a few weeks ago. Chap up north, I think he's in Yorkshire. I can't remember which one it was now, but basically what this is when you put you layer wood chip and compost and stuff on top of the ground and make like a mulch layer. So you dig the ground to start off with, and then you put your mulch and that on top of the ground, I don't know, about 6 inches or so. And what you do is you plant your plants through that, and then because there's so much activity with the worms and all the rest of it, you shouldn't need to dig the ground again. So all you do is just keep layering more stuff on the top, and then planting plants through it, and then by rights you shouldn't need to you know, sort of dig the ground out. I kind of use this method with the rhubarb, the strawberries and the asparagus, because I don't dig that ground over, obviously, because they're perennial plants. But what I do find is if you put plenty of mulch on there, the worms get in there over the winter and they break all the soil up, which makes it easy for the roots to get through on the plant. So we kind of do for that as well. But yes, that's a method that seems to be becoming more popular. The back to Eden method, which is basically, as I say, layering compost, wood chip, anything you can get your hands on the top of the ground, and then you plant your plants through it, and then because of the activity with the worms and everything like that, and obviously you're feeding the ground with the nutrition from the compost and that, it's potentially an easy way of gardening. There is actually a gentleman at the bottom of our field, and he kind of his allotment is kind of like that. What he does is he layers compost on top of the ground, and then he does dig it a little bit, but he's got a tendency of heavily mulching stuff with compost, and when he grows his potatoes, he just piles grass cuttings and stuff like that over the top of the potatoes rather than hoeing them up. He just puts more and more and more sort of compost on top of there. I tend to shy away from doing that because what you can do is attract the slugs. So I typically don't do that. I did try it one year, but I found I had a reasonable amount of slug damage. Could have been because of the weather conditions, I don't know. But because you're holding moisture in the ground, a lot more moisture, it's a lot more enticing for slugs and that to get in there. But most certainly with the back to Eden, you don't need to water anywhere near as much because the mulch holds the water in the ground. You shouldn't need to dig the ground because the ground's all what's it depends on the crops that you put in, but it doesn't work for every crop. Things like I'm not sure how it works out for onions and things like that, because really you need those on sort of ground level, but things like brassicas and stuff like that, you most certainly can do it. Potatoes probably not so good, but because obviously you need to dig the potatoes out after, but give it a go. There are plenty of videos on the YouTube that I've seen of people doing this back to Eden project. So have a go and see how it works out for you. The next one comes from Nigel, and he was talking about coffee grounds as well. And he was saying about he's not quite sure of how much quantity to put on. I've done a few videos this week. I don't know if it's before this or after this for the coffee, but basically, if you're not sure about the coffee, don't be too frightened to putting it on. You can't really burn plants with it, but if you're not quite sure with coffee, put a bit on. If the plant is reacting well to it, put some more on. The thing is with anything like this, it's all through trial and error basically. But as I say, these sort of bags of coffee, on a piece of ground, say 4 meters squared, I wouldn't worry about putting one of these bags, or half one of these bags over sort of 4 meters squared, because irrespective of what you got in there, it's not going to have masses of sort of detrimental effect if the plants don't like it. So, but what you can do, obviously, you can always add more. It's obviously hard to take it out. So if you are a little bit concerned, put a bit down on the ground, see how the plants behave. If they behave well, or if they react well to the amount of coffee that you put down, then you can put a bit more down as well. So that's the best advice I can give you. But I think the videos I'll put out this week should help you with your coffee. So that's the comments for this week. So, I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions below, and I'll always get back to you. I always appreciate any comments that anybody's got. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's on the Garden.